You'll often hear this expression, go woke, go broke, but why is that the case? At least as far as I'm concerned, I've never heard a satisfactory explanation. The response is usually, oh, well, people don't like to be lectured. But when you understand storytelling and the history of storytelling, that doesn't really make much sense. I don't know many people who watch Schindler's List and go, I get it, the Holocaust was bad, stop shoving that down my throat. Saving Private Ryan, Full Metal Jacket, I get it, war is hell, stop being so preachy. Like, no, go back to the origins of storytelling, parables and fables. That's all about pushing values onto people through a narrative. Aside from like Michael Bay, Zack Snyder, popcorn cinema, storytelling is literally about telling people how to think and how to feel. Or at least I should say, showing them how they should feel. And that right there is why far-left ideology struggles to make compelling stories. It violates the most fundamental rule of storytelling. Show, don't tell. If I have an oppression fantasy or delusions of grandeur, guess what? I can't show those to you because they're not real. I can only tell you how much of a victim I am for the minor inconveniences that I face, and I can't turn that into a good story. Marvel's She-Hulk, if you've seen it, was a good example of that. She-Hulk will complain about how she is not taken seriously at work because she's a woman, even though she's incredibly unprofessional at work. She'll talk about how great she is at controlling her anger, even though she doesn't control her anger at all. And the person she's trying to compare her life to, saying how horrible her life is and how good his life is Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner, who from the comics was abused as a child. Bruce Banner, who from the Avengers, and I quote, when things got low, put a bullet in his mouth and the other guy spat it out. Far-left fantasies make characters unlikable and make it so their stories are not enjoyable to watch. Because they're simultaneously super oppressed and underprivileged, but at the same time, the most privileged and advantaged people you will ever meet. They're naturally good at everything. They never have to work towards anything because it's offensive to think that they have to put in the effort, and so usually the conflict of the story just resolves itself deus ex machina. And that's why we don't like the storytelling, not because it's shoved down our throat. I watched Starship Troopers yesterday, and allegedly the book it was written on is supposed to be pro-military, and I think that the movie was supposed to be like anti-military. But I just kept watching it like, am I supposed to be rooting for the bugs? When an author doesn't shove his or her delusions down your throat, then that actually gives the story room to breathe. It's storytelling first, delusion second, and so typically you're not even going to pick up on the delusion. Which is why often you have far-left authors who are like, this was an allegory about women's rights, this was an allegory about Trump, this was an allegory about the Iraq War. Why do you conservatives like it? Well, because you wrote a story about a bunch of badass characters who, in the face of insurmountable odds, work hard to defeat the villain and pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Why do you think that's in opposition to what I believe?